call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Madam Chair, Tomita Gurley Hiron.
Present.
Commissioner David Romero.
Here.
Commissioner Vince Howell.
Here.
Commissioner Amber Davis. Commissioner Barbara Casey.
Here.
Commissioner David Ulibarri Jr.
Here.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilor Howell.
Moment. Thank you for all the community to pray for all of us that have lost so many wonderful people. My mother and other family members that are within this community. Thank you for all your graces and your prayers to the Lord to help us go through this traumatic time period.
Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Madam Chair, Commissioners, the next item on the agenda is the approval agenda. However, I would like to announce that we do have one slight change to the agenda. On the presentation, P&M presentation, I'm going to be removing that from this agenda. If they wish to be here at next month's meeting, so I'm just going to remove them from this agenda and we'll bring them back.
Okay, thank you very much. Questions, comments? What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Do I have?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Ulibarri?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell?
Yes.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casey, a second by Commissioner Howell. Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of October the 16th, 2019.
What is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair, there are two errors that I found just recently. On page 2 of the minutes, the last paragraph, line 1, reads Commissioner David with no last name.
David or Davis?
No, it says David.
Davis.
Commissioner David.
Okay, thank you.
So I don't know if it was Commissioner Ulibarri or Commissioner Romero.
I'll check that and correct that.
And then on page 4, the first paragraph, line 3, reads weather on a weekend. Weather spelled W-E-A-T-H-E-R. It should be W-H-E-T-H-E-R.
Okay.
And with those changes, Madam Chair, I move approval of the minutes as corrected.
Thank you very much. Do you have a second?
Second.
2 seconds, I believe.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell?
Yes.
Commissioner Ulibarri?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero? I have a motion by Commissioner Casey, a second by Commissioner Romero and Commissioner Ulibarri. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.
Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is public input. Nobody is signed up for public input at this time.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is the presentation, our Housing Authority Finance Report by our Financial Specialist, Natasha Martinez.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, this evening you will have in your packets the Finance Revenue and Expenditure Report through October 31st, 2019. 33% of the year has elapsed. Our revenues for dwelling rent are a little under what our year-to-date budget would normally be. We're at $170,012, and this is billed, so this is the amount that we've billed. We've had a substantial amount of move-outs recently, and so that has really hit our revenue for dwelling rent. For operating subsidy, we are over. So our year-to-date budget was $220,000. We have accrued, what has been allocated to us is $257,574. For other income, we have taken in or billed out $4,584, and year-to-date it should be $5,467. For our transfers, which we're hoping to get our transfer, our capital fund transfer now in December, that'll be that lump sum amount, but currently we've only transferred in the transfer from operations. We are hoping that we can get that transfer to come in now in December due to the fact that the continuing resolution that was presented to the president is only through December 20th. So right now, there's no active budget for the federal government, so we're hoping that at least if they sign that in tonight or today, if they did, or tomorrow, that we'll at least have a continuing resolution budget through December 20th, so our field office will still be working, so they can continue our funding. So I will be asking that they give us our, well, not give us our transfer, but process the transfer in December prior to any sort of shutdown or anything that might be happening. We don't know, nothing's been said, but just trying to be a little bit proactive to that to make sure that the monies that we can get for through December that we do get. As far as expenses go, we are still staying as frugal as possible. For employee expenses, we are under, we're at 29%. We've spent $189,158. And for operating expenses, $140,306. Like I've said in the past, our operating expenses, we do have that large budget line item that is for betterments and improvements, and that line item we don't touch, so it always looks like we're way under for operating expenses. Thank you.
Questions, comments? Okay, Councilor Howell. Commissioner Howell, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You had stated a reason for the dwelling rent to be only 30%. What was that? If you don't mind.
Our move-outs and vacancies. So as we're having move-outs, there's tenants that are moving out and then tenants that are moving in. Substantially, the incomes are coming in lower. So we're getting a lot of zero incomes, and so our dwelling rent is going to be a little bit less than what we were expecting. Additionally, we do have units that are vacant currently. So as soon as we get individuals into those units, then we'll be billing out for rent as well.
Regards to employee expense, are we understaffed?
Commissioner Howell, we are not understaffed, but we are currently without an executive director. So we have cost savings for that, not for that position, but for Barbara's alternate position, or full-time position, the housing manager supervisor is the position that we have vacant on the budget, so we don't pay that line out.
I see. And that's the reason why.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? What is the,
Thank you, Madam Chair. The next item on the agenda is the business items. The first item is the approval, disapproval of resolution number 19-50.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry?
that was the presentation for the Housing Authority and then the Housing Director's Monthly.
I'm sorry. Skip that, sorry. Madam Chair, Commissioners, reporting that maintenance staff prepared 5 units for move-ins in October. There were 7 move-outs in the month of October also. So as Natasha mentioned, that does affect us. We have had several people move out unexpectedly sometimes. Sometimes
Did you
there's
say 7?
7 move-outs in the month of October, yes. Maintenance is working on the unit turnarounds as well as dealing with furnace and plumbing issues as they occur. Our waiting list manager continues to accept and process applications daily. As of November the 12th, this is the data that I received on our bedroom sizes waiting list. We do need applicants, again, for our 2, 3, 4, and 5 bedroom units. We are advertising on the city's website and Facebook page, and we might be putting it in the newspaper also, and just wherever we can advertise, we take flyers just to the universities and different places also to advertise that we do need applicants. Currently, our 1 bedroom, waiting list is always the highest. We had 53 people on our 1 bedroom waiting list, 10 on our 2 bedroom waiting list, 6 on our 3 bedroom waiting list, 4 on the 4 bedroom waiting list, and 1 on the 5 bedroom waiting list who is now being housed. So that means we won't have anybody on our 5 bedroom waiting list, so we do need larger families to start applying. Hopefully they will do that. Even if they just inquire, sometimes they might not think that they qualify because they think they have to be very low income. But depending on the family size, they might still qualify. So we encourage them to call our office to see if they do qualify for housing. We also, our housing managers continue with lease enforcement, lease renewal, annual and special inspections, and other day-to-day operations. We are currently waiting for eviction. We're going to be submitting 2 court evictions in magistrate court, and both of those are for non-payment. Also, the Housing Authority staff continues to attend monthly safety meetings, and we are still offering the smoke-free cessation classes. The refrigerator replacement is still ongoing with the builder source replacing refrigerators, and that was the presentation we were going to receive tonight. As I mentioned, they will be coming next month because I wanted to have a little bit more information to present to the commission. And that is all I have for my director's report.
Questions, comments?
Madam,
Councillor Howell, please. Commissioner Howell. Yes.
Wait, okay.
Raise your hand.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Are we able to go on the radio to advertise these openings on these 2 bedrooms, 4 bedroom?
Yes.
Do we do that?
We have not, but, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have not at this time yet, but I'm sure I can speak to the city manager about going on the radio to advertise that. We will do that.
Yeah, because that'll help us get our...
Put the word out, yes.
Yeah, get the word out, and plus it won't go against us for having all these vacancies.
Right.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Luddy.
Madam Chair, Barbara, can we have a copy of your monthly report every time we have a council meeting?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, that is provided, I believe. You do receive it?
Should be in the packet.
I'm not sure.
It was in last
Okay.
week's packet.
Okay, and the one you have right there, and the one you read out. And the one
This
right
one here,
there.
I do turn that into the city manager's office. I believe they give it to you.
Okay, and then I think on the monthly reports, I don't see any
But it was in.
work done on like on the maintenance, not maintenance, outside maintenance or anything like your outside your housing. You know, I don't see too much of that.
As you're talking
That's
about.
like weeds, dead weeds and all that, you know. So.
Right now, what we're concentrating on is filling those vacant units. We have 7 vacant units. We only have 4 maintenance men, and they just returned from a training on hands-on electrical and plumbing, which will also help our department so that we don't have to bid out electrical services for our furnaces. So we did have 4 maintenance guys out for that. So they are very behind as far as unit turnarounds, and that's where we need to concentrate. As far as the yards and stuff like that, they do try and still police as far as picking up trash. But as far as improvements, I'm not sure if you're talking about sidewalks or what are you talking about more?
Well, I'm talking about the roads and the yards outside the yards, behind the yards, behind the housing.
Let me ask Natasha to answer that because we have some projects that are going on.
I actually, Madam Chair, Commissioners, we have fencing in the Bernalillo Delgado area because that fence is getting gigged because of the way that it's opened up. So for that one, we have a PO for Northeastern Construction. These are all small purchases. We did small purchase procurement. We have sidewalks that Michael Long Construction will be doing, but he does have a stipulation that he can't start them, and it's throughout housing. So we went around and we saw sidewalks that we knew needed improvement and had them go out there. And that will be starting, but he does have a requirement that for 48 hours the temperature has to be above 45 degrees because we don't want them to put them and then them crumble, is what I learned. And then we also have a stucco project for the exterior of 2802 Loudon 9 and 10, for the exterior of those buildings, which right now has paneling that we're going to be replacing with stucco. So we are working on the exterior of that building as well. We have 5 sets of cabinets that throughout housing that we are also doing on the interior. So different, as we're having these vacancies come up, we haven't really seen a lot of the inside of these units. So when we see that these cabinets are needing replacement, we get that done as well. And then lastly, we have the Sagebrush site. We're having a lot of unwanted people, traffic coming. They've cut through that fence. And so we're having that whole section refenced to do that as well. So we are working on the exterior as they come. Regretfully, when I started them and got them there and then we got the POs for them, the weather got cold. So we're trying to do it. They do have, time to do it. We gave them letters of awardment, but with stipulations, and so they don't have notices to proceed, like on the stucco or the sidewalks, until the weather is permitting.
What I'm talking about is the units that are not vacant, there's a lot of trash and a lot of
And
dead
Madam Chair,
weeds and stuff like
Commissioners,
that.
those are,
It looks real bad, so.
and Madam Chair, Commissioners, so again, those are the tenant's responsibility, unless they're elderly and disabled, in which case maintenance does pick up after. Also, our housing managers issue warning notices for any violations of dirty yards or debris outside of the units. If it's not picked up by a certain day, then maintenance will pick it up or clean it, and it is charged to the tenant. So we are trying to keep up with all of that, as well as try and keep up with the unit vacancies.
Thank you.
Councilor Casey.
Thank you.
Commissioner Casey, I'm sorry.
On the maintenance sheet that you gave us, it says the number of emergency work orders abated within 24 hours is 7. And then non-emergency work orders issued was 135. Non-emergency work orders completed is 128. So are those 7 that are still, that were abated, part of that 135, or are they separate? Because, let me see it next. Let me see that. Number of outstanding work orders is 95. So can you explain those numbers a
Yes.
little bit?
Madam
better
Chair,
so that-
Commissioners, as I had discussed a little bit before about the work orders, they always fluctuate. So they might make 128 work orders in a month. Sometimes they do more within that month, sometimes they're duplicate work orders. It's never going to give an exact number. The number that is exact is the number of open work orders, so that fluctuates every month. When I run the report, it does the work orders that were created within that month. It doesn't show the work orders that were created the month before or 2 months before that might still be open or might have already been closed. It's just, that number's really tricky as far as this report numbers here.
So by open, do you mean the outstanding work
Yes.
orders? Okay, so there's currently, what, 95?
At
that are
this,
listed
the
there?
date that I did this report, there were 95.
Okay. And is that same number included in the 135 or the 128 or anything, or not?
No,
No?
it's not.
So those are over
That's-
and above?
That's
the-
just whatever is still open is 95 at that time. Oh, Yeah, it's included. It's a combination of the work orders that have been created previously. But that's really the number to look at, is the number that are open, 95.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Clement.
A few questions. On the maintenance, I know it seems like sometimes we're asking questions, are they not doing what they're doing? I know, we only have 4. Is there like a national average as to square footage that they cover versus how many maintenance staff we should have? Is there some type of-
Madam Chair, Commissioner, I don't know if
Or how's
there's a
that
standard, but I
determined?
believe that they kind of go by 50 units per maintenance. Is that right?
Correct. The standard that HUD goes by as far as funding for staff like that is 50 units per maintenance man. Being that we have 4 maintenance tech 2s and 1 maintenance supervisor, they consider our maintenance supervisor maintenance staff as well. So maintenance staff, they have us fully staffed because we're at 250.
So according to
One unit.
average
We're
work-
251 units and 5 maintenance staff. So yes, they consider us fully staffed in that regard.
And it doesn't matter the size of the unit?
It doesn't matter the size of the unit, because if it's something like tiling, if it's something that needs to be completely redone for that unit, normally we would contract that out to an outside construction company. As far as unit turnarounds go, it's a lot of it is cleaning and minor repairs and painting. So as far as square footage goes, it kind of balances itself out, because you may have, in one area, you may have a cul-de-sac of nothing but efficiencies. But then in the next area, you have 4 and 5 bedrooms. So it kind of balances itself out the way that they're each assigned their designated areas.
The other question, you had mentioned about court evictions. The average time, how long is that taking? And is that because of the courts, or
Madam Chair, Commissioners, really, I can't really answer that. I don't know what it takes, the process. We just have to submit it, and then we just wait till it's scheduled with the magistrate court. And they usually go to magistrate court instead of district court because it's faster, I believe.
So are these pending? Have they been a while?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask the attorney what think they were turning last month. We have one eviction that we closed out that took about 3 months, or a couple of months. We have 2 that are ready to be filed as soon as it goes through finance, the filing fee, and we anticipate probably 2 months.
And the reason why I'm asking is there, obviously we have individuals that need these homes. Was there a way that, the city could speed that up, or is it really just in the courts?
Well, housing also has to follow a certain process that HUD sets forth. They have to give them the opportunity, give them a notice, a 3-day notice or a 14-day notice. They're entitled to a grievance hearing first if they want to have a grievance hearing, and then the filing that takes place, and there's so much time that the Sheriff's Department has to serve them with their paperwork and get the case started. And usually the court setting takes a couple of weeks before we can get into court.
And would that, I'm sorry, would that, or might that not include reassignment and appeals as well?
That would be after,
Okay,
which would enlarge the term greatly.
thank you.
And then the last question that I had is you had mentioned about contracting on some fencing. Are we soliciting the bids, or are we calling contractors, or how, are we advertising, or how's that being done?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, the way that we did it was direct solicitation. So I solicited to 13 companies around Las Vegas. So I did our local construction companies throughout Las Vegas, and we had walkthroughs, and we received, I believe, 3 companies actually responded, 4 actually attended, and 3 responded. So I usually set out for a big amount and then get, a lot of the companies don't like to bid small projects, and that's pretty much what we're doing. They're not they're not in the thousands and thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars, so they don't tend to respond to them. But we did do a 5-unit de minimis, so our de minimis did go out and was opened yesterday. So we did receive the bids for that one yesterday, and we did do that as a sealed bid process. And that did come in, and it still came in under the small purchase threshold, but we did do sealed bids for that one as well.
That's it.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. The next item is the business items. First item is approval, disapproval of resolution number 19-56 to approve the housing of law enforcement officers in public housing. We'll be having that presented by Natasha Martinez and Chief of Police David Bitt.
Should it be in the middle?
The chair.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, in your guys' packet today, you'll see our request for resolution. Every 3 years, we have to bring a resolution to council for housing law enforcement. The reason we push to house these law enforcement officers is extra security and basically a safer environment for our tenants. They feel safer, there's police presence there, and if you also saw in there, in the plan of action, there are certain requirements that our officers also have to abide by. They do, like, different activities with the surrounding officers, or not officers, surrounding tenants, and they're just there to provide that extra sense of security, even if it isn't, they contact local law enforcement. They'll still write tickets if it's, speeding, anything like that, and they're on duty, they do that as well. In the packet, there was the resolution, a letter from our chief of police, Chief David Bibb, the plan of action for our housing of law enforcement officers, the lease agreement of, for the housing authority officers. Their rent will be going up. Currently, they're paying $138. Now we are going to be increasing it to $150 per unit. And we only have 3 units currently. That's all that has been allocated for law enforcement units. And then the last bit that we have that I kind of wanted to show was our statistics that we had for nonviolent crimes, violent crimes, and property crimes. Do you have any questions on the resolution or plan before we get to the statistics?
We'll continue, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Okay, so nonviolent crimes in 2017, we had a little higher of drunkenness in the area. This is DWIs, intoxicated people, and these are all from the call for service from City of Police. In 2018 and 2019, they decreased. Harassment, and that's not considered a violent crime, we did put at 15 in 2017. We didn't have very many calls for harassment in 2018, but we did have about 13. And the 13 in 2019, when I was looking at it, stemmed from the same units per se. They were the same people that felt they were being harassed, and it wasn't by other tenants, it was actually by outside sources coming into our properties. Loud noise, the majority of the complaints for the loud noise for 2019, I would like to say, came from the tenant that was just recently evicted. So that should actually be taken care of in that sense. 5 of the 7 were for that unit. Narcotics, one of the ones for 2019 was also from that unit. Unwanted subjects, that's been a big one with us. I guess it's just like people that they don't want there, and so they'll call law enforcement for that.
People who have outstayed their welcome.
Okay, gotcha.
Trespassing, these are usually, we issue no trespass for people who have had crimes against tenants, if it's the perpetrator of a domestic violence, or if they've had burglary, anything like that, any sort of property crime on housing property, we also trespass them for that. So there's, or if they've actually like assaulted one of our tenants, assaulted staff, anything like that, we also trespass them for that. And we haven't had to call very often for it, but once they're trespassed, they usually, the officers usually explain to them, you cannot enter housing property, so we haven't had very many of those. And suspicious subjects is the other kind.
Right, anything from a prowler to a dog barking at unusual activity.
For violent crimes, for 2017 we had 2, 2018 we had 2 for assault, and 2019 we didn't have any. Well, and this is from May to May. So we did it the years, kind of like a fiscal year, but when we got the reports. Battery, there was 2 incidents in 2017, but we haven't received any on our property since then. Disturbance and fighting, we had 1 in 2017, 5 in 2018, and 3 in 2019. Domestic violence, we had 9 in 2017, 4 in 2018, and 3 in 2019. And I really can say that our officers, just being there after hours, really does defer that kind of behavior, or deflect it, yeah. That kind of behavior amongst, the residents there. When they know an officer is there, they're not going to really have too many domestic disputes. Shots fired, I don't know that it's necessarily, they're usually just calling and thinking. I don't know that they were actually shots fired.
Yeah, a lot of times that will be fireworks or a car backfiring. It's called in as shots fired. The officers investigate it as if it were shots fired. And usually it's determined to be fireworks or a car.
We did have one stabbing at the end of 2018. It was a tenant. Basically, they invited people over that they probably shouldn't have. Suicides, we had 1 in 2017. Threats, 4 in 2017, 2 in 2018, and 6 in 2019. Unlawful discharge, we had 1 in 2018, and missing persons, we had 1 in 2018 and 1 in 2019.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Oh, the last one's property crimes. And if you guys just want to look through that, it's really just larceny, burglary, parking, recovered items, vandalism, vehicle theft, and reckless drivers. And larceny in 2018 was when we kind of had a few calls, and then burglary in 2017. But other than that, they've kind of maintained. And these are pretty good numbers considering we have 250 units and all of these tenants. So I feel that, you know, having our law enforcement there has really, really assisted in the process.
Okay. Questions? Commissioner Howard.
Thank you, Madam Chair. How long has the officers been residing at our public housing? How many years?
The officers switch every time. I think we've had these since 2009, I think was the first one that I saw. As far as the law enforcement policies, was there one before that? No. I think 2009 was the first time that they did it. And since then, I think it was 2009, maybe it was after.
I thought it was 2010, but maybe.
I'm not sure, Madam Chair and Commissioners, the exact date, but it is renewed every year. So the last time we did it from this year was 2016, so it might have been 13 before that, and then
10.
yeah,
I think it was 10.
so it might have been there.
That was on the council, so I remember that was the first time it was introduced.
So 2010.
So we have 3 units that are available for officers to stay in? Is that what I'm hearing?
They enter into a lease just like all of our other tenants, so they're there for, we have a waiting list just like we do for our other tenants, so we have waiting lists for officers as well. So as new officers come in to the police department, to the Las Vegas Police Department, to the San Miguel Sheriff's Office, or to state police, they're let know that we have a waiting list process and we do house officers in our area. The 3 that we have, the longest one that we've had there, I think has been there for 3 years now, maybe 2 years, 2 or 3 years. Other than that, they kind of use it as like a, you know, when they first relocate here and then they go and, you know, we even had Captain Moncada from State Police that was residing with us for a little while as well. And, you know, he did a great security job. He always made sure that the officers were present in all of the different areas, so.
Do you prioritize which public housing units needs officers to stay in those?
Back in 2010, I believe there was a study done, and they had to be designated to those units. So those units that law enforcement are in currently had to be designated through HUD for that purpose. So we hadn't repurposed any other units. They actually were just those set 3 because they had to be designated.
Well, I mean, if you have a high, you know, your graphs that you did, are these in any particular units? Like if it's the property crimes or burglary, it's pretty high. So is that public housing unit area really dangerous? Not dangerous, but needing of an officer to be in that area?
The way that we have a scattered site, we are actually able to designate, there's one on this side of town. There's one around all of these cul-de-sacs, and then there's one over here. So yes, actually, the majority of where the crimes are committed are where our officers are at.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
And Madam Chair and Commissioners, that was actually, there, as she mentioned, it was a study that was done of our highest crime areas, and that's where we decided which units needed, which areas needed, or that we would like to have a police officer in that area. Then we had to go to HUD for approval to get those units specified only as it's considered a non-dwelling unit. So we don't receive subsidy, but they are, it's a service that we, you know, having a police officer really makes a big difference. They have, even just the presence of their vehicle makes a big difference, because people will see that coming into the Loudoun area, which was at one time one of our worst areas, was Loudoun. And actually now, if you look at that area, and the number of reports that we receive for that area has significantly declined. That was one of our worst areas.
Okay, I think we need to move forward. Whatever you're saying. Any other questions?
Just one other question.
Sure. Commissioner Clement.
You mentioned that it's for all law enforcement, but specifically, and I know I've had an opportunity to speak with Chief Bibb as far as recruitment and retention for within Las Vegas Police Department. Can't we, specifically, use that focus? I know State Police doesn't, have as hard of a time as recruiting as we do, but is there a way that we could, make that focus specifically for it?
Madam Chair, Commissioners, we've pushed for that, and for some reason, they don't really want to be put on that waiting list. I don't know, new recruits may want that, but I think because of the additional responsibilities, I think it makes it a little bit more difficult for city police, and that's why we haven't seen that big of a push for it.
Administratively at the
We do. Every time there's one open, we'll give them a call and be like, send us somebody.
Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Case.
I move approval of resolution number 1956 to approve the housing of law enforcement officers in the public housing.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Howell?
Yes.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Olivari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casey, a second by Commissioner Olivari. Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is the approval, disapproval to award bid number 2020-04 for the 2019-2020 maintenance inventory supplies. Natasha Martinez is presenting that.
The City of Las Vegas goes out to bid annually for maintenance inventory supplies for the Las Vegas Housing Authority. We have items that we need to keep on hand, so we do a by-item bid on an annual basis. I think you guys were provided with the bid as well as the breakdown for each of the 3 companies that responded. The 3 companies that responded were BTU Building Materials, Hacienda Home Centers, and Doc Savage Supply.
Who was the last one?
Doc Savage Supply?
Mhm.
What's that?
They, what I've seen and what they bid on, if you guys actually, if you look at the spreadsheet, is mostly forced air type stuff. So furnaces, they did put stuff in for plumbing supplies, wall registers. So it seems like they're a company for forced air heating, cooling, that kind of area. Which was nice because they did bid on items that the other 2 hardware stores don't normally bid on.
Okay. So on this bid, being that it's a quantitative bid, did you get 1 supplier or did you get 3 suppliers? Did you get 2 suppliers? How did you handle the quantitative bid?
We did a sealed bid, so we advertised in the local paper as well as on the city's website.
And on the quantitative bid, I'll ask you again, maybe I'll rephrase the question. Did you go to the lowest bidder based on the quantity that they were able to provide? And possibly, as you stated, there was others that couldn't provide that quantity or that unit. So how did you handle the actual award? I'll put it.
The actual award was a by item for a single amount. So in case our maintenance supervisor just needed 1 valve, we got an amount for that 1 valve. That kind of.
And how many bidders are going to be awarded the bid?
3.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions? Okay, let's move forward with the pleasure of the board.
Madam Chair, I move approval of the bid award 2020-04 for this fiscal year 2019-2020 for the maintenance inventory supplies to the lowest responsive bidder per item listed.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Olivari?
Yes.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casey and a second by Commissioner Howell. Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion
Okay,
carries.
thank you very much, Commissioner Fritz. I will limit to 2 minutes, Commissioner.
No comment.
Commissioner Howell.
No comment.
Commissioner Casey.
None.
Commissioner Romero.
I just need the director's report.
Okay, you're good to go. Okay, I need a motion. Do we have any for executive session? Need a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Roll call.
Commissioner Romero?
Yes.
Commissioner Casey?
Yes.
Commissioner Howell?
Yes.
Commissioner Olivari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Commissioner Casey, a second by Commissioner Howell. Thank you, Madam Chair. Motion carries.